Real Enigmas and Theories is back again with another video.
Alma! Alma's outside!
What? Ethan, hey, no!
Hello.
Go! Ethan, run! Go!
Julie!
Go! Go, go, go!
Don't you want to play? It's for you.
So I'm gonna do something that I don't usually do here on this channel, and that is episode recaps. And good news, guys, I'm gonna recap these episodes every single time this season. I think it'll be something new that I add to the channel, and it will give me a chance to get out all of my jokes instead of putting those in the middle of my theory. But you know, there'll still be some jokes here and there. So let's get into this. So the opening scene is right where we left off with Tabitha at the hospital. She's standing there talking to the doctor named Dr. Brody, and Dr. Brody is inquiring about her name and if there's any family members that she can contact. Tabitha pretty much says no. Just then, a nurse comes in and alerts Dr. Brody that the police are on their way. So Tabitha knows that she has to get on up out of there. She gets her clothes and heads for the elevator, sneaks past everyone, and she gets in the elevator, makes her way out of there just as the police are pulling up. Tabitha makes her way on into like a downtown part of the town. And as you theorized last year about Camden, Maine being that picture of Tabitha's window, you guys were right. So for a whole year we knew that. And then we got even more confirmation when we saw the ambulance say Knox County during the trailer. Tabitha takes a stroll through town and she looks homeless. Her clothes are all torn up, still got her scratches and scrapes on her face. Like the little downtown area is kind of lit, little ice cream parlors and whatnot. It looks like a nice place. Then all of a sudden, Tabitha spots the boy in white and he starts waving at her. And then she darts out in the road to try to get his attention and almost gets hit by a car. She makes her way across the street and she spots who she thinks she sees, again, the little boy in white. So she starts to follow him. Tabitha spots a little boy inside of an ice cream parlor, and when she goes to approach him and talk to him and ask him why did he say this was the only way, the boy's mother stopped because the boy, it wasn't the same boy. It was a boy that had on some different tops. So maybe Tabitha could be seeing the actual boy in white, or this could be something just her mind messing with her. And after the encounter with the little boy and his mother in the ice cream parlor, we go right into the title credits. So we come back from the title credits with Boyd wrapping his shoulder up from where he got shot with Reggie. Maybe there's something esoteric in how he was wrapping that up. But he gets right into a conversation with Father Khatri, and Father Khatri is pretty much just giving him a bunch of disparaging comments about how bad things are getting, how cold it's getting. And they break into a good part of the conversation where Boyd flat out asked him, you know, what are you?
You know, when I was in that chamber, about to smash the music box, that thing that was talking to me, telling me to give up, that hope is what the forest fed on, that thing, whatever it was, it sure as hell wasn't my wife. So what are you?
I'm afraid I can't answer that for you, Boyd.
Then Boyd is distracted by some commotion going on outside with Tien Chen. She's caught Ethan from going out there trying to find his mother. And we get a very interesting part where Julie comes back and she tells Jim that it's not his fault. And she doesn't really want to talk or hang out or anything. She just goes off to be with herself, possibly dealing with what she experienced after being under that spell. We get right into Boyd trying to talk Jim down from going out there to find Tabitha rightfully so. I mean, even Ethan knows that that's what it's time to do. It's time to go out and find Tabitha and see what's going on. If anybody, I'd be making sure Victor would be trying to find her, since he was the last one that seen her. But then, you know, Kenny comes in there, and he comes in while they're talking. He inquires about what they're talking about, and he pretty much volunteers to go. So here we are in season 3, episode 1, getting right to it. It's not the slow pace that we're used to. They're getting right to some journeys and ventures out into the woods right in the first episode. So then we cut to a scene where Fatima is laying on that bathroom floor up at the Colony House, where you saw Jasmine come through the window. The Jasmine Slow Walker came through the window at the Colony House massacre. You could see the mirror there, and she's on the floor calling Earl in the toilet. And so, you know, assuming that's some sort of morning sickness, and she's being rushed out of the bathroom by a girl named Nikki. But she goes to the sink and she touches her side, and it does look like Fatima is showing just a little bit. And that may be the signs of an accelerated pregnancy. And she finally opens the door, and Nikki says to her that it's not bad enough that you're getting the double rations, but you're also hogging up the bathroom as well. And Clara tells her to back off, pretty much. Clara comes to the defense of Fatima. And then we see Ellis. He comes in and he wants to talk to Fatima and just make her feel a little better, because he sensed that she's going through a lot right now. So Tilly's overhearing the conversation with Ellis and Fatima, and she comes over to offer Ellis some words of encouragement, and he may need to show patience during the beginning stages of her pregnancy. So after she walks off, Donna comes through and tells Ellis that he's got some work to do with her down in the garden. And so they're talking about the foods and what, you know, they may need to salvage. And then they walk past an obviously distraught Elgin, who looks like he hadn't slept since the cicadas. And so then we cut to a scene with Boyd, Jim, and Kenny in the kitchen. And Boyd is describing what he went through when him and Sarah went out into the woods. So I think that's dope. Now we're starting to see some transparency amongst the residents. We're seeing Boyd break down his journey throughout the woods. Boyd goes on to explain to them about where he was, where they made camp at, and what happened to them while they were in the tent. But that is also where Kenny officially says that he wants to go out there. Boyd obviously disagrees with Kenny with this, so he takes Kenny outside and asks him would he like to speak. He wants to speak to him outside and try to perhaps talk him down. And what interrupts their conversation is something flying out the window of the gas station / bar where Jade lives. And Kenny and Boyd run over there to see what's going on. And they go inside to find Jade laying on the floor under some sort of web that it's created. And he's laying under it, drinking and babbling, saying that he doesn't understand, he can't see it. They tried to show him a lot of incoherent babbling. Then Boyd and Kenny pick Jade up and pretty much take him on out of there and get him out of that whole situation and decide to take him on over to the post office. So we cut to a scene where I think we get the most confirmation that Tabitha is actually out in the real world. She's looking dusty out there with a lunchbox tied to a rope, and people are looking at her thinking that she's crazy. So she approaches a vintage pop-up shop, and she notices 2 young ladies standing there, taking a selfie together. And she asks them could she use one of their phones. For the life of me, I don't understand how old girl just let Tabitha walk away with the phone. But anyway, she goes and has a whole conversation with her mother. And this is the part that kind of confirms that Tabitha is in the real world, when she has the discussion with the mother, and the mother says that the cops are looking for her. And Tabitha says that they'll be back and they'll be back soon. I'm sure that her mother will notify the authorities and let them know that her daughter called her. And so that may spark something that we will see later on. I don't know. Very interesting. And also to point out, her mother has a very thick Colombian accent, just like her. So, yeah, we kind of get that she is definitely in the real world. This is her mother that she's speaking to. And it's not like some fake voice on the phone. Just for those out there who believe that Tabitha may be on like another level of Frumlin. I thought it was crazy how when Tabitha gave the girl her phone back, the girl's friend was like, why would you do that? You gotta seriously sanitize your phone now. I thought that was a crazy line. Yo, she was being super disrespectful, but Tabitha wasn't about no smoke. She was trying to figure out what the hell's going on and get the F up out of there. And right after the girl walks off, Tabitha starts hearing the church bells and we get a shot of the church. I'm sure that if Tabitha's mom were to call the authorities, then the authorities would be able to trace the call back to where she was and something would be going on there. Just real world scenario stuff. I mean, Tabitha did escape the hospital and everything, so there are probably people already looking for her. We cut to a scene where Christy and Kenny are walking inside of the diner, talking about Kenny about to go into the woods with Jim. And Christy's asking him, is he sure about going on this trip? And he's totally sure about it. And he's come there to pick up some food from his mom so that he can go on the trip with Jim. And Tien Chen comes out with a ass load of food for them to go on this trip. She doesn't want him to be hungry out on the trip. And she's also trying to talk Kenny out of it. She doesn't want to lose her son. She's already lost her husband. And he reassures them that it's going to be fine. You know, they're worrying too much. And it's just time to go out here and see what we can find, and everything's going to be good. We got enough food. We have a talisman. And we're working to figure out what's going on. So then we cut to a scene where Jim is going into the house where Ethan is playing with a puzzle, actually putting a puzzle together. But he is coming to see his children before he leaves to go find his wife, or at least go out into the woods to see what's going on. So Jim goes outside where Kenny and Boyd are waiting. Boyd is telling them to keep an eye out for the faraway trees and telling them about the spider webs, and if they see the spider webs, that they're going in the right direction. As far as the tower is concerned, they both walk off and we go to the next scene. Then Ellis runs up to come get Boyd and tell him that they have to go out to the field. So we cut to a scene where we see Donna and some garden hands out there going through the food, only to find that they are all rotten. Everything's rotten inside of the garden. All of the food that survived the storm perished and by the rot or the blight that is taken over. And she tells Boyd, you know, that scene from the trailer that, hey, Boyd, we're out of food. And Boyd asks how many people know, how many hands did they have up there helping out in the garden, because he was worried about how the word spreads out. And sure enough, many people from Colony House were down there at Miss Lou's house. And Miss Lou is standing out there on her porch, much like she was standing out there guarding the diner. And but this time the people are more adamant about getting into her house to get the rest of the food. They all know where the resources are, and they've come to get them, and they definitely overpower her and go into her house and take all of the food. Then we even cut to a scene where Randall is trying to take one of the goats out of the pen, and Ethan comes up to stop him. And because that was his little friend, Ethan was fond of this particular goat. But then Victor, without hesitation, pulled out that pistol and pointed that pistol at him and was about to pop the shit out of Randall real quick about little Ethan. I respect the fact that he was there to protect Ethan, and he was about to pop the shit out of homie about Ethan and putting his hands on him. Boyd came over there and talked him down. He didn't want to give up the pistol, but he gave it to Boyd. But I definitely want to note when Boyd was putting the pistol in his jacket pocket, take note to how Ethan looked at that pistol. And I've theorized before that Ethan may get something else from Victor or something else of Victor's. And Taryn has theorized that it may be the pistol. And so I've also theorized that he may get the pistol or another item. He's got the staff, he's got the jacket, and maybe he's got the pistol. But we haven't seen Ethan with his staff. I don't think so yet, as of yet. But I think we will see him. Boyd pretty much stops Victor from, he saves Randall and stops Victor from putting a hole in him real quick. And he lets everybody know. He gives a pep talk, like one of those baseball game kind of pep talks. You know, Boyd, he played baseball in college, so he was giving one of his baseball game pep talks and said, hey, this was a setback, but we can still win. You see what I'm saying? And there's another game reference as well. I love the game references throughout the show. You know, even Kenny talks about them playing a game in the scene with Boyd. I love the game references, and they could just keep them coming, you know, because I'm sure that this is a game of some sort or some sort of duel between two or more rivals of a supernatural nature. But after Boyd's pep talk, Randall still act like he wasn't trying to give up the GOAT. And Boyd let him know, hey, we could just do this right here. And Ellis looks at him like, yo, bro, this is not what you want, because just give him the GOAT, man, because there's no way you can escape this ass whooping. Randall just keeps getting manhandled by Boyd over and over again. I like Randall, but boy, you got to get your squabbles up. Yo, so it's so crazy how just Boyd, he looks at Randall and he tells him, says,
Or we can do this right here. Right now. Just give him the GOAT.
and then he turns right around and flips the switch again and takes the little GOAT in there, and he's like,
Yeah, come on, Alma.
yo, Boyd is surgical with it. Boy, Harold Perrineau is surgical with it. And I love the gangster that I'm seeing in the show. First it was little Ethan.
No, let me go.
Ethan! We've been looking everywhere for you.
You told them, didn't you?
Hey, I'm talking
Why'd
to
you
you.
tell them?
Then you got Victor pulling out the piece on Randall.
All right? Stop! There's one thing, but I'm gonna fucking hit.
Randall,
all right?
what are you doing?
Hey, hey,
Stop.
Victor,
Stop. Victor?
Hey. So this guy's got a gun, are you fucking kidding me?
Is that seriously what you...
Man, they pulling out the stops with the gangster music today. Let's go. So then we cut to a scene where we have Jim and Kenny going through the woods, where they see those strange doll-looking things in the woods. And it seems to me that the doll-looking things were on some sort of path that actually led to the cabins. The way they showed us those perspectives in the trailer is totally different from how that perspective came in the actual show and how that played out. It definitely looked like it was a path. And Kenny, after noticing the cabins and Jim is inspecting them visually, he's looking at the cabins, and Kenny says that it's getting dark soon, that they should go back to the stone hut. However, Jim has the brilliant idea to maybe make camp at these cabins so that they're a little farther out than the stone hut when they start out the next day. I think that was a great idea. Instead of backtracking and doing a lot of double walking, you got to walk past this place. What, are we going to walk over here twice and then wait for it to get dark again? So we cut to a scene where Tabby is in the confessional at the church, and she's talking to the pastor, and the conversation ends up going towards her son Thomas that passed away, and she just feels like it's a mistake even going to the church. She runs off, and the pastor stops her, and this is where the conversation really starts to get interesting. He asked what is the name of her child, And she says Thomas, and he says that that's a good name. And he inquired about her other children. And she looked at him and wondered, how did he know I have other children? And he said, because you're carrying a lunchbox, pretty much. And so she was saying that it was from a man named Victor, who was still much like a child and had packed her a snack. And she was talking about how no one would believe what she was saying, and people probably think she's crazy. And he said, humor him on telling him what kind of snack did Victor pack for her. And so she pulls out the snack, which is wrapped in the picture of Julie that he colored the day when she was sleeping. And it's obvious that she hasn't opened up the snack yet. And so she starts to inspect the lunchbox and finds Victor's address and realizes that she has been brought to the hometown of Victor. And so now she knows where she has to go, and she runs off, and the pastor is very interested in hearing more. He seemed intrigued about her story about being in a place with monsters and where you couldn't leave. So I'm really curious to know if he'll show back up or if he'll have some sort of involvement in her journey any farther. And so we cut to a scene where Elgin is sitting by himself, knitting, and then he actually dozes off, sleeping, and then Tilly kind of appears. So I think that he slept into some sort of dream for sure. And how you can tell is because the shadows. There's a shadow on his face after he falls asleep, but before there's not a shadow. You don't see Tilly's shadow there. But anyway, she is sitting there with Elgin, and she tells him that he needs to get rest, in which Tilly indicates that she can see something standing there, and it comes to him and it touches his face. Then Elgin, he wakes up out of his dream, and he was just totally scared and terrified. So I see why he is still not trying to get too much sleep. So we cut to a scene where Victor's cleaning up in the house with Tien Chen, Boyd, and Donna, and they're discussing the rations for the food that are dwindling away. No more food in the garden, and the rest of the food just walked right out the door. So now they're contemplating on what they're going to do with their last resource, which is the livestock. How this livestock is going to hold them over until they can plant a new crop. Now, Tien Chen then says that we find somewhere else to plant the crops. Donna, to me, she just seems like one of those who puts a lot of emphasis on the problems instead of the solutions. Every single solution that Boyd tries to present, Donna shoots it down. It seems like she's trying to cause some kind of contention between her and Boyd and herself. And just as they were talking about slaughtering all the animals, they noticed that Ethan was standing by the door, and realizing that he's fond of the animals, Boyd rushes outside to talk to him and talk about how these animals being sacrificed is actually going to save the people, and how the animals are going to be heroes for them. Trying to get him to understand that this is the course of action that they must take just to survive at this point. And he says to Boyd, can Alma, the goat that he likes, go first? And Boyd asks why. And he said because he doesn't want her to see all of her friends die. And that was a very interesting line. It made me think about the line where Victor tells Ethan that all of his friends die in this place. And speaking of Tabitha, we go to a scene where she's out there. She must be on Victor's block, and she's walking down the road, and she comes to the address. She double checks it on the inside of Victor's lunchbox, and then somebody comes riding up in a super hoopty. Like, I'm talking about, if this is Victor's father, then this man has not got another automobile since his family went missing. I'm talking about this car is directly from the 70s. It probably has an 8-track player in it. You have to probably crank the windows to roll him up and down. Like dude pulls up in the super hoopty with a 6-pack. So he hops out the car with the 6-pack and he sees Tabitha with the Kanye West gear on. And he thinks that she might be like a homeless woman of the night or something. And he's like, oh my goodness, I'm not in the mood. He probably be picking them up in the hoopty on a regular basis, and they just be pulling up to his front door like, yo, what's up, boy? You got $40? Like, but no, this time he's not with it. But this one is different, bro, because she got your son's lunchbox, and he notices the lunchbox, and he definitely asks her where she got that from. And she realizes that this is Victor's father. She calls him out as Victor's father, and he reiterates that he wants to know where she got that lunchbox from. So then we cut to a scene with Jim and Kenny, and they've made camp inside one of these cabins here. And while they're talking about that, they hear something outside, someone or something, another slow walker or something else. I wonder who that could be. Then we get to the good stuff, which is the last 9.5 minutes of the show that led us to something very crazy. We're about to get into it right now. We see one of the slow walkers opening up the door so that the animals can start walking out on their own. Now, the shot then goes to Boyd inside of the post office, and he's pouring a drink. Now, we know that he has been shot in his left shoulder, and that's why he's been walking around holding his arm the whole time. But now we do see his right arm shaking as he pours himself a drink. So then they get interrupted by Boyd hearing one of the cows mooing outside of the post office. He goes to the window to check it, he sees it, and they both rush out there to start trying to rally up the livestock and get them back into their proper places. And then you start seeing more residents come out there, and this is when the shit really starts to hit the fan. Victor notices what's going on out there, and he runs out with Tien Chen to go save the animals before the bad things get there. Ethan and Julie stay inside. Julie quickly locks the door. Boyd gives a few out loud instructions to the 4 out there trying to save the livestock, as Randall is sleeping inside of the bus but is awakened by the commotion going on outside. Randall looks up and notices that there are 4 slow walkers approaching Tien Chen's house, and he realizes that Ethan and Julie are in there, and he decides to cause a commotion of his own by beeping the horn of the bus and letting everybody know that something is going on down on this end. He's just raising awareness to the situation. So Ethan is looking outside at all of the commotion going on, and he sees his little favorite goat, Alma. He decides to open the door. This answers the question from the trailer on why Ethan opened that door. And when he opens it, he sees the granny that killed Megan, and she forces her way on in. Julie grabs him. They run out the back. Now, after Julie and Ethan run out the back door, Sarah pops up out of nowhere and gets Ethan and Julie to run inside of the bushes and actually hide from the slow walkers. The transformed granny slow walker came outside and screamed as if she was extremely pissed off that she didn't get a chance to rip open little Ethan. We go further into scenes that show Boyd and the rest still trying to rally the animals and get them back into their proper places. And this is where we see what happens to that cow from the season 3 trailer that happened. And so Boyd and Tien Chen get trapped out on the road with this big ass cow, trying to get it to the barn, while six slow walkers pretty much have the street blocked up. They're walking up the street slow and wrangling. While they're trying to wrangle these animals, they are literally the ones being wrangled. And so Boyd and Tien Chen, they get the cow inside the barn, they close the door, And Tien Chin, she ties up the cow while Boyd locks the door and places the talisman. And as soon as he turns around, we hear this.
You said this place couldn't break you. Do you remember that, boy? You don't fucking break me. That's what she said.
No!
And yo, I have to admit, while making this video and watching this scene over, it definitely, when they scalp her and they take a piece of her scalp off like that, that definitely made me think about the Native Americans and the scalping form that they would do to enemies. But hearing her scream, hearing her cries, hearing Boyd plead with them and talking to them and threatening them, yo, it really hit me, the gravity of this scene. This scene is an amazing scene. It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. And the crazy part is, I definitely predicted that this scene would go to a cliffhanger. And hopefully we don't see it, but I think we might see some more of the slow walkers getting busy for episode 2. This was an amazing episode. I gave this episode a 10 out of 10. I'm definitely eager to see episode 2. We got to wait for another week, but we will definitely be going live several times a week. We'll be doing several videos from this channel, and we'll keep you busy while the season is afloat. So, just a little something to think about while we wait on the next episode. That's all for my video today. I'll catch you in the next one.